Coach, obviously a lot of swings and elements to this one tonight. What did you see ultimately as the reason your team came up short?
I mean, there's a lot of things that you can point at. Again, like we said last night when we left the game, we're going to see a team that does exactly what that other team did, what Atlanta did. We talk about the free throw, the margin of error. You miss 10 free throws in a game that's close in margin. Yeah, you give up 15 offensive rebounds in a game that's close in margin. Those are extra possessions you can't get back. And I think you have to look at that as something that we've got to focus on and hone in on and understand about the level of concentration we have to have throughout the entire game.
What went into the decision to not call timeout after those two missed free throws? It looked like there was some communication that maybe you would have called timeout. Was there miscommunication in that moment?
That's on me. That is completely on me. We put Goga in the game to go rebound timeout, and if you notice, there was guys signaling timeout, and we didn't get the call. And so at that point, we had put the ball on the ground. So in that moment, you can try to advance it and get it over. And then in that moment, you just say, okay, if you can get a shot with that momentum going down when they're off balance, you get the quick look. That's on me. I should have called the timeout once we advance it over half court. That's the communication part I'll have to be better at. We'll have to be better at.
You mentioned before the Atlanta game that you guys wanted to work on your late game execution. That was something that you wanted to see. What maybe was beyond just maybe making shots, but what was kind of the difference in this game compared to last night and being able to execute, get quality shots and step into them confidently?
Well, I honestly think we got a lot of good looks. I mean, we did got a lot of good looks down the stretch. They didn't go in, where they went in last night, and it looks a little bit different, obviously, because you come away with the win. But again, we did get some good looks, and we'll continue to work on our end of game execution to make sure that we're getting the right looks at the right time and they're clean, and we're continue to step in with confidence and knocking them down.
I think Dan said in his question, he mentioned some of the swings that were in this game. Obviously, that third quarter went back and forth with the two runs, you guys first, then Memphis. What goes into your decision-making and your management of this situation when you're trying to gauge whether or not to let your team figure things out versus let a run go on without a timeout?
Well, I think we had it going for a while. There was a good rhythm to start. And you didn't want to take away from that, but then they go on their momentum swing and you're still up about 14 or 15. And then as it chips away, you're trying to recognize what you can do and look at the timeouts, because if you call the timeout, then you may not have it on the back end. So I think being able to settle guys down, settle us down, to be able to execute the right things in those moments is going to continue to be very key. And then it comes down to being able to, on the floor as well, we've got to continue to get organized the same way.
Coach, the crowd after that second missed free throw, just free Chick-fil-A for the crowd, it created this ruckus in the arena. Do you think that contributed maybe to the chaos and not being able to get that call for the timeout?
No, again, I'm going to go back to I've got to do a better job of communicating with the group to get the timeout. And if you go back and look at the film, you have Wendell calling timeout, Goga calling timeout. We're all, the referees didn't see it. And that's on me and being able to go to the referee and say, we put a big in the game to say we're going to go rebound timeout, and they've got to signal and look at it. And that's part of all of the communication across the board, but that starts with me.
Coming back into the game there in the second quarter and then taking the lead in the third quarter, you guys found that kind of defensive grit to control the tempo and pace like we talked about before the game. When another team's able to put that run on you, how do you make sure guys kind of keep that defensive identity, and do you feel like the team is starting to kind of get back to the kind of grit and determination they had earlier in the season?
I do. You don't like coming away with this loss right now, but it's, again, things that we can control. You can control stepping up to the line, knocking your free throws down. You can control boxing guys out and going after the rebound. You hold a team that's, one of the leading scorers in the league, to 105 points. You're doing something right there. But again, in this moment, it's not enough. And I think those are the points that we have to keep hitting on, that it's the little things that matter in a game of small margins.
Thank you.
Thank you all.